Welcome to the PCS Edventures Educator Spotlight Series. In today's sponsored feature story, we're exploring why giraffes and lobsters are stealing the spotlight with STEM learning at the Green Bay YMCA. We caught up with Judy Dvorak, who shares how kids are building the animal kingdom with BrickLab Zoo and making connections to what they're learning in school.
I work for the school-age childcare through the YMCA in Green Bay. I do before school, after school, and summer program. I've been doing that for about 16 years with them. I also worked in the schools for special education for over 20 years. That's kind of my background and how I was working with the kids.
Before you started using the BrickLab Zoo program, what were some of those challenges that you faced in planning some hands-on activities for these kiddos?
Well, because of a busy lifestyle with raising 4 kids and just working, is finding the time to research the things and having the lesson plans and the activity of the supplies ready. It could be a challenge because we transfer from after school program to summer. We only have a couple weeks to get one ready versus the other one closing. So there's quite a time crunch. So that's a challenge to get all those supplies and things ready for a 11-week program.
Was this primarily used just in the summertime?
That's when I used it. You can use it other times, but I was using it for my summer program. We do clubs, and that was my club that I did with the kids once a week. And so then the kids had a choice, their ages 5 to 12, to join the club. And then they had other options.
So when you first got this kit and you open up the box, you saw everything that was in there. Walk me through your first thoughts when you saw all the supplies, and what were you thinking as far as like, oh, will this save me time? Will this help me, provide fun activities? Like, what was going through your head when you opened everything up?
It was great to open it up and see the quantity that it had, because then we can have anywhere between 5 kids joining us to 15, depending on the kids for that day, how many you have. So knowing that I had plenty of supplies was just great. And they were already packaged, ready to go. And the books, there was enough for all of them to have one. And then the lesson plans to introduce the thing, we always started out with a little conversation on, like, say we did the giraffe, where their habitat was known for. And then they would talk to me about adding in how they learned in school. So it was a great connection that way. So it was like, oh, I have this all ready to go. And all I got to do is review it before the kids join me.
How much prep was involved to get that first lesson up and running? How would you describe that?
Very minimal, because everything was laid out. It was just reviewing, and then I would pick which animals that I would do to go with our theme for that week, and then to review what they had, the information. If I wanted to add more, I would use what they had and be ready for the kids. And they went to it. As you saw the pictures, a lot of them did multiple ones.
Yeah, can you describe kind of the vibe in the room when the kids experienced this for the first time? What were they saying? What were they doing? How were they reacting?
Well, with any kind of blocks or Lego type of things, they always love building. And then when they had a purpose, some of them like to have something given to them to do. So when we say, well, it's a draft, they would add to it. Then I had some more advanced ones that would add trees and their habitat with the blocks. So they really expanded on it. And then multiple animals, multiple giraffes or multiple alligators. They really enjoyed it because it gave them an option for themselves to expand. So it was like good for all ages. Some of the little ones maybe struggled a little bit, but when we would guide them with it, then they would be very proud of themselves that they could get it done. So there was some mentoring going on with the older kids that got the hang of the blocks right away versus the younger ones. And then there was some really accomplishments that they were excited that they got to make one and knew how to do it. It was good.
That's fun. So what were some of those aha moments? Is there anything specific that stands out in your mind with some of the kids that they're like,
yeah, it was,
like that kind of clicked?
Yeah. The kids, like I said, some of the younger ones would get frustrated and not want to do it. So I would help guide them, but I wanted them to look and see. I said, there is written pages that some of them wouldn't know how to read, but I said, there's pictures. So that the pictures you guys had were great because it did step by step. So I'd show them, this is a 2x2, this is a 3x3. Then it started to click with them and they go, oh, yeah, I know. And then they would say, no, I'll do it myself. And then they would just start exploring. So it was nice to see that they could, even though they couldn't read a lot, they could still do it.
And what were some of their favorite animals?
Well, the draft was one, alligator. I'm trying to think what other ones we did. There's a few of them that just went off the script and just started building their own animals. Some tried the monkey and things like that. But yeah, those two that stand out.
Super, super fun. So as far as the kids' confidence, you mentioned a little bit about that, like they, didn't get something and then they kind of clicked and they're like, oh, and then talk to me about some of those skills that they've developed from a program like this.
Sure. Like the older ones that kind of knew it, they learned how they could help others and guide them. So that teaching instinct for some of them would go good. They would make their own, and then they'd see one of the younger struggling. So I wasn't the only one helping. So the older ones would mentor the younger ones, but they felt accomplished that they could guide the little ones. When they realized they didn't need to read, they could see the pictures and follow it. That gave them a boost of confidence that they could do something enjoyable and do the bricks and build the animals. It gave them the boost that keep trying, you'll eventually get it. Don't give up. Perseverance was a big word we used. They learned that.
If you were to piece all of the different parts of the program together on your own and source your own bricks and write the curriculum, could you talk about the time saving that this supplied you in creating such a fun hands-on experience for the kids?
Well, sure. Number one, the quantity of supplies we would need. You saved on that because you had a couple of buckets full of the Legos. So there was more than enough for each table because I would spread them out on the table for the kids to search. I didn't have to collect those and get all the different sizes measured out. They were all there because you need the 8x8, 2x8 to the 4x4. I mean, there was a lot of different bricks. So that time consuming there would have been a lot for me, along with the researching the animal and some basic facts. Again, those were all supplied. So that was a big time saver. I mean, some of the kids said, oh, we learned that in our class, and they would add to it. So that was kind of fun. That was big conversation for the first half of our club time. And then they would get into it. I would just dump the bricks onto the table and they would start with the books. They grabbed it, found the page, and would start.
Excellent. And how is the durability of all the things in this kit? Is it something that you'd be able to use over and over from summer to summer?
Yes, definitely. We would clean them or spray them down afterwards because just the number of kids that would handle them. And they showed no wear and tear the 11 weeks I used them in my summer. And I know there's some other sites that have used them since then. So yeah, they're very durable.
What about the built-in curriculum? So how easy was that to follow, and how did that help you teach the kids about some of these zoo animals?
That was very easy to follow. Reading it was very fluent, understandable. It would talk about the habitats and about the uniqueness of that animal. So it would tie in with our theme that year. I think it was the wild things or something that we had going on. So we could connect it with that. Then it connected with their school learning. We would do our visits like to the new zoo. And so maybe I'd pick an animal that they had known at the new zoo. So some of our field trips, we could connect with it. And yeah, it all went together very, very nicely.
Super fun. So I was going to ask you if you found any ways to adapt the activities or anything within the curriculum, like tying into zoo outings or things like that. Any other creative ways that you thought of to kind of go off script a little bit from what was actually in the curriculum?
Well, right. So like I said, we had some field trips that would be to like a nature center. So some of the free play I would allow them to have is to think about their summer and to maybe try and build one of the animals that they thought were unique in one of our field trips or our trips that we took to the zoo or to the nature center. They would do that, and they like to go on their own and be creative.
Very fun. And then last question, any other skills that they have learned, any big takeaways that they've learned from this STEM program that will carry throughout the coming years? What are some of those takeaways of things that might be transferable into helping them in other areas of their life?
The perseverance, that was a big word that we used a lot, so that when they would struggle, it'd say you have to keep trying even though it's hard. So that was a big take on it. And as we know, the kids today, just learning how to read, write, anything in school or even sports, if they don't do it right the first time, they have to try again. And even if it's a little different, it's still okay. It's okay to make mistakes. So that was discussed, and they learned that even though it didn't come out just right, it's okay. We can go back and fix it or try again. So those were some of the things I think the kids took from that. And the older ones that help the younger ones is that, their mentoring skills to guide someone else that may not be able to, and to learn how to communicate those ways to that child. So I think they took a lot from that.
That's so sweet. I love to hear those stories. And again, what was the age range of the kids that were in there?
5 to 12.
5 to 12. Okay, so you've got those 12-year-olds helping the younger ones. That's so sweet. Oh, fun. That's really nice. And it's nice when kids just naturally do that and they just naturally find ways to help. And it's just a
Yeah.
win-win for the older kids and the younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's so sweet. That's all the questions I have for you today. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you would like to add just with your experience with using this program? And I just want to double check if there's any other programs that you are planning to use from PCS.
I think we have the historical one that has some of the monuments, if I remember right.
Architecture. Okay.
Right, the architecture one. I'd be interested in using that in our future summer program.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah, exactly. Or in my school age, we start transitioning. We have another week of our summer program, then we're going into our fall programs. So I might grab some of those. It's like, oh yeah, those would be so cool to use.
Thank you, Judy. It's inspiring to see how much kids are learning during out-of-school programs. To listen to more stories from educators like you, visit adventures.com/spotlight.